Good day, everyone. How's everyone doing? From here from NetCB, welcome and thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us today for the ZENworks 2020 update and to give you guys just the latest presentation on the new things that are happening. As you can see, we'd like to thank you all for coming once again. Joining us today from Micro Focus, we have Jenny Whiteside, Ron van Niekerk, and Fabian Lopez, all the way from Spain. And we also have some people from Kenya, as well as Nigeria, and also here from Cape Town. I can see there's a lot of people from Cape Town joining us today. Yes, so please stay tuned, stay warm. And if you have any questions, please relay them to our Q&A, as well as go on our website to see future coming up events and other webinars with also many presentations that we're going to be doing and the solutions that we're going to be doing. So please go on there, and any that you've missed, please just refer also to our website. And if you know anyone that is having troubles connecting, that is because we are having problems with the electricity here in South Africa, as you know, from the load sheddings. So please refer them to our social media websites, such as LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. They can use those links to join us today. And please feel free to ask any questions once again in our Q&A boxes. We'll be answering them as we go along or at the end of it. Thank you very much. Cheers. On to Ron.
Yep, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, welcome everyone. Today, I hope to guide you through what we are doing from an endpoint management point of view within Micro Focus. A lot of you will probably know ZENworks as a product. I'll give you an overview, an update on what's new within ZENworks. I'll have a quick look at Connected MX. Well, I'll discuss that, and we'll have a good look at the upcoming version of desktop containers. But let's just begin with a few introduction slides. Yeah. If you look at what we do with endpoint management, yeah, the focus is to make sure that everyone's able to do whatever they want. Yeah. Customers that you've or end users that you have within your environment want to get their job done. And what we do as IT is facilitate that they are able to do that. Obviously, as an IT organization, you want to make sure that things are done properly. You don't want to have people going into Dropbox or whatsoever to share documents. If you've got documents internally, you want to be able to facilitate what people have. Yeah. In the past, people would just call IS&T, but now they've got their own iPad, for example, at home. They can go to the Play Store, press a button, and it's installed immediately. And due to that, that's kind of what they expect from their own IT environment as well. Yeah, get a quick response if they want to have an application, would like to get it installed quickly, and obviously with ZENworks we're able to support that. At the same time, an important piece of what we need to focus on as an IT organization is making sure that we keep things secure as well. Yeah, you don't want to get hacks into your system, so making sure that everything's secure is an important piece of the IT daily operations. And if you look at that, if you look at securing data, obviously you want to make sure that the data is secure on the device as well. Both from an encryption point of view, so that if the device ever gets stolen, that the data is not being taken off, but also from a protection point of view for backing up, so we can actually back up files in the cloud as well. With that, we go into what our endpoint management portfolio is all about. Yeah, first thing that we do is we are focusing on managing the device. Yeah, that's what we've been doing for a long time with ZENworks. And over time, the remaining components have become more and more important. Yeah, security of the device is a key thing nowadays. Yeah, making sure that devices are up to date, properly patched, yeah, is a key thing in the IT industry nowadays. Yeah, and the third pillar is protecting the data. So that means putting encryption on your hard drive, but also making sure that data is backed up properly. So managing, secure, and protect, that's kind of the theme that we're focusing on within the endpoint management portfolio. And if you look at that, we've got the products that fill into that. Yeah. Configuration management is what most ZENworks customers are using. It's the base product that we have within the portfolio. Now, configuration management will do application distribution. It will do operating system deployment. It can do inventory of your device. It can do remote control, things like that. Yeah. If you want to have additional functionality, what we can add is asset management to do more license tracking, for example. So that's more tied into what we do with Inventory Ready. It just provides you with the ability to track licenses and see what software is actually being used. We've got Service Desk, ZENworks Service Desk that integrates with ZENworks. That allows you, for example, to remote control directly from the Service Desk interface. If we follow on the ZENworks stack, we've got Endpoint Security Management. And here we've got some interesting changes coming up early next year when we're going to add the ability to do anti-malware into that as well. For now, it's mainly focused on the security of your Windows device. Yeah, are you allowed to add a USB stick? Are you allowed to go to specific ports so you can manage the firewall? You can manage what people are able to plug in and so on. Patch management, obviously, a key component to make sure that your PC is up to date. And I'll show you quite of that in the ZENworks 2020 update, because there we've had a good focus on what we do with security, and we've built our own security dashboard. And that really ties into what we do with patch management. Last piece of the puzzle, if you look at the ZENworks components, is ZENworks full disk encryption. Where we do the encryption of the full device. Yeah, endpoint management is able to, endpoint security management is able to do encryption for USB devices, but for the full disk, we've got the full disk encryption component. Finally, at the left, we've got the ZENworks reporting server. That's not really a product. All the remaining components on the screen are actually separate products that you can use depending on what you need. ZENworks reporting just comes with any of them. That allows you to build your own custom reports and give you a lot more detail about what's happening in your environment. So this is the core components that we have to manage your enterprise environments. That's what we've got as a ZENworks product set. Yeah, on top of ZENworks, we've got a few components that fit into the endpoint management story as well, but they're more positioned individually. Yeah, obviously they've got some tie-in with ZENworks. The first one that I want to discuss is connected endpoint backup. I'm not having any slides today in connected backup, but I just want to highlight, this is the backup solution that we got within Micro Focus to back up your endpoint devices. Yeah, typically a lot of enterprises are focused on making sure that the data center is backed up. But if a laptop gets stolen or if a laptop gets lost, it's always a big problem because customers store a lot of data on their laptop. Yeah, making sure you've got connected endpoint backup running allows you to synchronize your data to the cloud, for example, or to your own data center. Making sure you've got a constant backup of your machine. If anything happens, you can always go back in time to a certain point in time and say, I would like to restore all of that. Yeah, so that's obviously useful if your laptop gets stolen or if it gets broken, but also if you've got ransomware attacks, for example. If you've got a ransomware attack and you know, hey, this happened 2 days ago when I opened that specific email, you can just go back in time to in your backup console, say, I would like to go back to 10:15 on Tuesday morning, and I would like to restore all of the files that I've had at that time. Yeah, and that will just restore all the files that you had at that point. An additional component next to, well, we've got ZENworks and connected. The next one that we focus on is the desktop containers product. Desktop containers is our application virtualization product or containerization product. It's like Docker, for example. So a lot of people are familiar with Docker to containerize applications on Linux. What we do is we containerize Windows applications. So we make them isolated from the operating system so you can put them in as separate containers and you can easily work with that. Yeah, with that, we're able to resolve some compatibility issues. We can sometimes run applications that would typically not run on Windows 10. We can easily run them on Windows 10. A nice example is Internet Explorer. We can just run Internet Explorer 7 on top of a Windows 10 device, for example. The difficulty with the desktop containers is that you always need to run these on a Windows platform. Yeah, we are virtualizing the application, but we're not creating a full VDI environment. We're just virtualizing or containerizing the application. Yeah, and that means that we need the underlying operating system to use that. So what we're going to add within the next week, actually, is the ability to run these containerized application in your data center. Yeah, desktop containers always had a user portal, and the user portal allowed you to open applications and stream them down to the workstation. But they were actually running on the local device. Yeah, and that was limiting us to running that on Windows devices. Now with the application streaming, we're able to run that in your data center, and I'll show you that in the end, at the end of the session. And with that, you're able to run that from any device that you have that runs an HTML5 browser. Okay, moving on. So we've got the recent releases that we have on ZENworks. We released ZENworks 2020 at the end of last year. And with that, we focus a lot on all of the security aspects of managing ZENworks. In the past, in the ZENworks 2017 releases, we focused a lot on the mobile management features within ZENworks. With ZENworks 2020, we shift focus a little bit, have more focus on the security aspects of what we do with managing endpoint devices. Obviously, that doesn't mean that we're not doing anything with the mobile devices anymore. It's just that we focus on security a little bit more because we also see that that's more important within the market. The first thing that we've done is we've built this security dashboard. Yeah, security dashboard that shows you vulnerabilities that we have available, that we recognize through patch management detection, and that's showing up on a new security dashboard that we have. Second thing that we've changed is that we've changed the way that we track changes that happen within the environment. Yeah. So if you install an application, we are keeping track of that. But we actually enhance the way that we are tracking these changes so that the status updates are more correct in the backend. What if you reinstall a machine, for example? If you re-image a machine, we will now just reset all the status information so that the status information is actually correct on your backend system. Number 3, we've got some additional capabilities on the endpoint security management to do folder-based encryption on your device. With that, we're actually basically managing the encryption using the Microsoft functionality within Windows 10, but we're using that when we're managing that within the endpoint security management component. Last one is that we're actually able to scale a lot more than what we used to do. And this one you actually need to be a little bit careful with. If you're a customer that has less than 5,000 devices, I would recommend not to focus on anything that as the Vertica component brings in. So for larger customers, what we've added is an additional database that speeds up the performance of the reporting capabilities within ZENworks. Now you can imagine I've got a customer in France that has 80,000 devices. Well, if they want to do reports on what devices have been properly patched or what patches are still needed, running reports against the database with 80,000 devices that's quite a large amount of data. So by mirroring that data into Vertica, and Vertica is not a relational database, but it's a columnar database. So it stores the data in a different way. And that will allow us to be a lot more, a lot quicker on doing reports. Let me quickly show that. Let me just jump to my, why is my system not doing a tab? Let me switch to my console. So in the first thing that we've done is we've added the security dashboard. So let me log into my machine again. My keyboard is not responding for some reason. No, it is. Something weird going on. This is the security dashboard that we've got. So on the security dashboard, let me just show. what you see here is, for example, this vulnerability overview. So you can see what vulnerabilities we've detected in the environment, and we're able to to demonstrate what is actually visible. So if you go into that, I'll actually show you the list of CVEs. You can actually sort on the ranking on the CVE score. You will see how many devices are vulnerable, and if you want, you can drill into these vulnerabilities to show the details of that. So if I go into the details, it shows me here, in this case, it's a Microsoft vulnerability. I can see that there's 2 devices that are vulnerable for this. And if I want, I can go to the patches, and then I can say, I'm gonna remediate this to my machines, yeah? So that's a different view into what we recognize with our patch management system. So, and that's part of our new security dashboard. This is part of what we've added into the ZENworks 2020 release. One thing I wanted to show you is the performance upgrade that we've had. Here in our configuration screen, you've got performance upgrade. If you've got less than 5,000 users, please do not enable any of this. I know we've had some customers putting this on. This will just give you an additional service on your server. That is really only needed if you've got a large deployment. If you've got a small deployment, just ignore this and do not use any of the performance upgrade features. Okay, in ZENworks 2020, we've also done a lot of small things. There's lots of things, lots of small things that we've done. One, let me highlight that. If we do bundles, you can version bundle. So if you every time you make a change, there's going to be versions that you're going to have. One of the things that we've got now is that we're able to do the old bundle deletion. So you can specify you only want to retain a certain number of bundles. Yeah. In the meantime, we've got some questions coming in. Someone is asking that they see slow performance on their ZENworks system. I know that we've had quite a lot of issues with inventory in the old days. Nowadays, we've seen a lot less performance issues. I don't know what version of ZENworks they're using. The ZENworks agent is a .NET based agent, so it does require some memory, but typically we haven't seen a lot of performance issues since ZENworks 2017 update 4 or so. So yeah, maybe we need to work on that. I mean, if they're on a current release and they see a lot of performance issues due to ZENworks, please let the customer connect with support to find out what's going on. The second question that I see is this an on-prem or in the cloud? Currently, ZENworks is all on-prem. Yeah. We are working to make it more easy to put this into the cloud. I know we've got some customers that actually outsource their ZENworks infrastructure and put it in the cloud, but then it's a one per customer installation. We are changing the architecture slightly. I'll get to that when I get into the roadmap type stuff. Next question, if you're already using WSUS, the Microsoft ZENworks updates, obviously Microsoft is only providing patches for Microsoft themselves. If you look at patch management is able to provide patches for a lot of additional components. I go to my security, I can show you my subscription download. So we provide patches for a lot of different vendors, not just for the Microsoft updates. The second difference is that it's obviously if you've got ZENworks in place and you would use ZENworks patch management, the ZENworks patch distribution goes through the same system as what you use for ZENworks. So it's going to be a simple infrastructure to work with. The third difference is that the detection of what is needed on the workstation is a bit different than what WSUS is doing. WSUS will just make sure that the patch is deployed. But if there's anything that will unroll that patch, Microsoft is not always detecting that. So there's some difference in the way that we detect the need to do the patch update. And I've got a question on PVT data. I don't know what PVT data is. Maybe you can explain that. Maybe it's a term that is more used in South Africa, but I'm not familiar with it. So if you put that question in, I'll answer that later on. Let me get back to my slides. So after ZENworks 2020, we've done the next update on ZENworks 2020 Update 1. We've done some additional customer enhancements, so small things that we've put in. The other thing that we've done is we've changed the patch management capabilities a bit, so we enhanced some things to make it more easy to do custom patching. So I just explained that we do patches for all kinds of different vendors, but in some cases you would like to add your own patches into that. A nice example is Java updates. So if you've got a subscription with Oracle for Java updates, we are not allowed to ship these Oracle updates anymore. So with the new capability to add your custom patches, it becomes more easy to add these Java updates into the system. The third thing that we've done is we've changed the migration utility to move from Postgres to MS SQL. And from MS SQL to Postgres, or from Oracle to Postgres. With ZENworks 2020, we stopped the support for Sybase and we migrated all customers to Postgres. That's working really well. And what we have now done is make the migration available for MS SQL and Oracle customers as well, so they can move off a licensed database and go to the free Postgres database. In ZENworks 2020, we've got quite a lot of additional small things that we've done. We've done some things on the Apple VPP, for example, so automatically update VPP applications. We've done some things we're able to publish web applications now to mobile devices. So there's a lot of small things that we've done. What more to highlight? The remote management viewer gives a lot of better performance if you want to do remote control. So that's one to highlight as well. On the right and top, provisioning profiles for iOS and iPadOS. One thing, so Apple used to have iOS as the operating systems for phones and for their iPads. Nowadays, they have a specialized version of iOS that is specifically targeted to iPads. Yeah. ZENworks supports iPadOS. However, if initially we will not separate these. Yeah, we will separate these if you as a customer say, I would like to manage iPadOS separately in my system. So there's a flag to specify if you want to have iPadOS listed separately, or if you want to just highlight them as iPadOS, or if you want to highlight them as iOS. Yeah. With that, you can decide if you want to manage them separately or if you want to have them included all at once. Okay. So my users don't want to get their private data access. How is that able to distinguish the private and business data on your bring your own device devices? It's a very good question. If you look at the way that we can manage Android devices, and with Android, it's really nice. You can really create two different environments on an Android phone. So any Android device, Android 5 or above, is able to work with something that is called work managed profile. That means that you can create a separate work profile on your phone. That within that profile, only your managed applications will be residing. Yeah, the people can do whatever they want in their phone, but they create this separate work environment on their phone that has all corporate data. Yeah, and that means you can secure that. On iOS, it works a little bit different, but there you can specify that data that you got within managed applications are not allowed to be shared with non-managed applications. So also there you can protect the data that you got on your managed device if you look at mobile devices. Another way of doing that would be to use the application streaming capability of desktop containers, because then you can just run the application on the device, but it's actually running in your data center and not on the device itself. But I'll show you that in the end. And that were the questions so far. So if you've got any additional questions coming in, yeah, please put them in. Then we can just go through that. Okay, separate. Something that we released as well was the Service Desk 8.1. We've actually got different Service Desk products within Micro Focus nowadays. Yeah, we've got the SMAX product that is originally from HP Enterprise, and we've got ZENworks Service Desk that is the traditional service desk that we always had with ZENworks. ZenworksService Desk, we have been rebuilding the end user interface. So they are now having a completely new look and feel on their web interface to Service Desk. What we're doing now is actually working on the technician interface, and that's what's coming up in the roadmap slides. So what's coming up next? I've just mentioned we released ZENworks 2020 Update 1, and we've got Service Desk 8.1. Well, the next version of ZENworks is going to be ZENworks 2020 Update 2. Now, with ZENworks 2020 Update 2, there's a few really big things that we're going to put in. The first one, initial gen, is architecture. So one of the questions earlier was, is this an on-prem or in the cloud offering? Yeah. Currently, ZENworks is really targeted to on-prem environments, and that's what we have as a customer base. But we would like to make it more easy to move to the cloud. What we're going to do is we're going to change the backend architecture slightly by introducing Docker. Yeah. So initially, you will not see too much of a difference because the Docker components will just be on the primary server that you work with traditionally, and there'll just be an additional service running on that server. Moving forward, we will move more of the current architecture from your Zen server and Zen loader components into these Docker components, so that it will become more easy to update these different components and to update the backend server. As soon as we've got all that done, and we got all these Docker containers, it will actually become more easy to have this as a cloud-based offering as well. Yeah, so that's the end result of the changes that we make with this Genus architecture. The first thing that will utilize that Genus architecture, so the Docker-based backend, is the anti-malware component. So we've got endpoint security management within the ZENworks product, but currently that is just doing the managed firewall. Are you allowed to use a USB stick and things like that? We want to put anti-malware into that, and for that we're actually partnering with one of the anti-malware vendors. We're using their scan engine, and the ZENworks backend infrastructure will do all of the upgrade mechanism behind that. So the signature updates will go through ZENworks, and the whole update mechanism will be actually in that Genus architecture. Next one is ZENworks 10 Mobile Modern Management. That will allow you to enroll your Windows 10 device as a mobile management device. Now, this gives some additional management capabilities. Obviously, it's a lot more limited than what you've got if you got the complete agent installed on the device. But ultimately, if Microsoft moves on with their ability to manage Windows 10 through the MDM interface, it will be a lightweight management option that we've got to manage Windows 10. Yeah. With the Kentucky release, we hope to do the same thing for Macintosh as well, because so Macintosh you can manage through the MDM framework. So adding Windows 10 Modern Management will allow us to use something called Autopilot as well from Microsoft. So that means that if you've got a new machine coming in, if you then log in with your domain credentials, Microsoft will know that that device needs to be managed by your own management console, yeah, or your own management infrastructure, and it will automatically enroll your device into your management environment. Next to that, we've got some mobile enhancements coming up in Update 2. The next release after that is going to be ZENworks Kentucky, where we do some additional things on the modern management, for example. But Update 2 is the one that we currently focus on. The line below, Service Desk, as mentioned, we're actually working on the technician interface to refresh that completely as well. Where Genus is actually, where 2020 Update 2 is planned for probably mid-first half of next year. The ZENworks and the Service Desk A2 is actually going to ship next month. That's with the complete new technician interface that we've got. Yeah. All of the things that you do with handling tickets is going to be the new interface. Okay, I'm going to speed up a little bit. I'm going quick, but I have a lot of things to discuss. Big things that we've got changed is the desktop container. Now, if you look at what we've done with desktop containers in the past few years, typically the desktop container would get a new release every time that we've got a new version of Windows 10 coming out. Yeah. Typically, if a new version of Windows 10 comes out, we need to update a few things within our virtualization engine. to make sure that we're compatible with that Windows 10 release. Yeah, and typically every build has just been making sure that we're compatible with Windows 10. Yeah. Desktop Containers 20 is going to change a lot of that. Yeah, it's going to change the whole architecture behind that. It's going to change the desktop container server that we've got, and it's going to add the streaming capabilities. Yeah, I'll get back to that in the end when I go through the. I've got some specific slides about desktop containers coming up. Okay, moving on. So update 2, I've mentioned already. It's the updated Windows 10 management capability. It's integrated anti-malware, and it's the transition to the Janus architecture, so the new Docker-based architecture that we have. Yeah, Windows 10 management allows you to enroll your Windows 10 device automatically, and you can enroll that through Autopilot, and the Autopilot enrollment will then automatically push down the agent to the device, if you've got that configured as such. Obviously, we're moving on with the Android and iOS updates as well. So yeah, we're just enhancing the mobile management framework that we've got within the system. Yeah. Second was the anti-malware component. So we're adding the ability to do anti-malware scans. And obviously, that will be part of the ZENworks backend infrastructure. You're going to manage that through policies, just like you do with everything else within ZENworks. And the updates for your anti-malware will be part of the security dashboard. So on your security dashboard, you will see what malware has been detected, when it's been detected, and what devices, and so on. So you'll get different dashlets coming up to show you what the anti-malware component is doing. The Janus architecture, so this is the move to go to a cloud-based service eventually, or to scale differently in large environments. Is the Docker-based architecture. So this will allow us to be more flexible with the backend infrastructure, but also it's going to be more easy to patch specific components on the servers. If you're ever working with support, hopefully you're not doing that too much, but if you're working with support, they could just give you a new version of just one of these components, and that will just work with the rest of the environment. So it's going to be more easy and more flexible to do updates. Now, and one more slide about the Janus updates. Service Desk, as mentioned, we've got the new version of Service Desk coming up next month, actually. That will give you the complete new look and feel. So this is a screenshot that gives you the overview, what tickets are available, are open. Obviously, in the left-hand side, you can filter all of that. It's making use of the whole screen. That was one of the things that we didn't do with the old version, that was having fixed size windows, but that was due to the framework that was used in the back. Some more screenshots. So this is the overview, what tickets are open. You can open up a ticket. You can see what is inside. You can see the different notes that have been added. You can obviously do things like escalate to a second level. You can do remote control from this screen as well. All of that, well, visibility of the ticket, and that will also work on a mobile phone. So if you're working from a mobile phone, you'll be able to look through the same things, and it will just scale to whatever display size you've got. If there's any questions around the ZENworks components, please put them in the questions window, and then I'll try to answer them as much as possible. If not, I'll just move on to what we got with desktop containers. As mentioned, desktop containers is the application virtualization component. So it's making it more easy to put applications, to create applications, just isolating them in a separate bubble. It allows us to run different versions of a single application next to each other, for example. Typically, you're not able to run multiple versions on the same machine, but we're able to do that with the desktop container component. And we've had this for quite a long time, yeah? And we've got a few different versions of desktop containers currently available. We've got a standard edition, and we've got the so-called turbo add-on. Yeah? What we want to do is simplify the packaging for that, so I'll get to that. And what we're going to do as a second bit is we're going to add the ability to run these desktop containers on an application server in your backend infrastructure, and just stream the UI to the machine, and just instead of streaming the application down. Okay, so it's these components that we work with. So it's desktop containers, it's the desktop application streaming, and if you want, you can actually use reporting server to report against the usage on the server. So what are we going to do with the version 20? Yeah. Currently, if you look at desktop containers, we've got two versions of the product. We got the standard edition, the desktop containers, and we've got an add-on that is Turbo for desktop containers. Turbo adds a repository of prepackaged applications. It also has a slightly advanced version of Turbo Studio that gives you more capabilities to do network restrictions, for example. You can put a firewall within the application, and it gives some additional capabilities on the client side as well to package applications from a command line. So what we're going to do with the version 20, we're going to merge these into one. Yeah. So we're going to remove the Turbo add-on from our price list, and all of the customers will just get Desktop Containers 20 that includes everything that we used to have before within the two components. Yeah, that means that all of the customers that have ZENworks Suite will now also get the Turbo repository, and then that makes it a lot more easy to package certain applications. Now, especially if you look at Internet Explorer, that's an easy thing to do if you got the Turbo repository. Next to this desktop containers product, we do have a new add-on product that we're going to ship, which is the application streaming capability. Now, application streaming will allow you to put the containerized application on the server like you used to do before. Yeah, but you can also then run them on the server or run them in the backend infrastructure. You can put application servers behind your desktop container server and then run the applications in the data center. So you're just streaming the UI for that. Basically, an IDP session that you have showing that. Let me move on. So this is the backend infrastructure that we are going to work with. So you will have, this is what we have current. So if you do not have any of the add-ons, this is what you would have. Now you've got the portal server. That's basically the server that you connect to. We've got a so-called hub server. That's why we've got the virtual application stored. And with your Windows device, you can go to the portal and download applications that basically come from the hub. With the version 20, if you've got the application streaming capability, we're going to add a lot of the infrastructure. Now we're going to add the ability to run a broker on your portal server, and you're going to have application servers behind that. And that means that you can run the applications basically in any device that allows a HTML5 browser to run. Yeah, I've been testing that on my Chromebook, and that's running fine. I can just run any Windows application on my Chromebook, but it's actually just streaming the UI for that application. Yeah. If you look at a product, we've got desktop containers as a separate product, but quite a lot of customers have it as part of the ZENworks suite. You will have the portal server, you will have the new hub server. That's now an integrated piece. Yeah, in the past, there were two different components, and that's now an integrated piece as one. Yeah. You've got the version of Studio that will actually allow you to do network configuration and things like that. So you can actually limit an application to go to only one or two specific websites. Why would that be useful? An easy example to use is Flash. Now, at the end of the year, most browsers will stop the support for Flash, and they will disable that by default. Yeah, and a lot of companies would like to get that disabled on all of the devices. But maybe you've got some internal websites that require Flash, and you're not able to migrate away from that soon enough. So you would like to continue to use Flash, but just for that one specific website. Yeah. What you could do is just have the PC configured with Flash completely disabled, but have a virtualized containerized application that has maybe Internet Explorer 11 with Flash included, and that can be used to go to that one specific internal website. Yeah. You can configure the application that is indeed only allowed to go to that one specific website that you go internally, and you cannot use that to go anywhere else. Yeah, so that's the ability to add the network configuration into the virtual application. Now, we can put the virtual application, we can create a standalone executable for that. So then you can just distribute that with ZENworks, for example, or you can put that on the portal server, and then it will actually automatically update the application as well if you want to use that. With ZENworks 20, with desktop containers version 20, we're going to do a lot more on the desktop container side. If you look at the Studio application, so that's the application that you use to package your applications. In the past, we were mainly using a so-called snapshot method. That means that if you want to package your application, you're going to take a snapshot before on a clean machine. You're then going to run the installation, and then you're going to stop the snapshot and you compare all the changes. Yeah. What we've added now is the ability to monitor what happens in the meantime. Instead of taking the snapshot, we will just monitor whatever happens in the registry or what happens in your file system. And by monitoring that, we can monitor what the install has been doing. So if you enable the monitoring, you can just follow what the installation is doing. At the end, you close down the process, and it will show you what processes it actually has been monitoring to see what file actions have been taking place. You can specify the components that you would like, and that's building your virtual application. It's going to be a more easy way to package your application. Yeah, yesterday I've been packaging group-wise using that. It's just doing the installation as normal, and in the end you just close it down and you got your group-wise package. Some more changes. We've got something called the T drive. The T drive is an integration that we have with things like Dropbox or OneDrive. We actually are working on the integration with Filer, so that if you have your virtual application, so within your virtual application, you would have a drive mapping point called T that points to your Filer share. Yeah, and there you would see your net folder, for example. So that's something that we've got upcoming as well. The line below, that's obviously only available if you've got application streaming capabilities enabled. Application streaming will allow you to have the application running in your data center, and that's showing you the application. So let me just switch to my demo. Well, I can move forward one more slide. So this is the screenshot, just a sample screenshot that we have. You see applications, and we've got the run in the cloud option, but I can show you that from my PC. Let me switch to my demo machine. So here I got my demo machine, and on my demo machine, you can see I've got my virtual applications. Yeah, there's two ways that you can publish these containerized applications. You can just create an executable. Yeah, you can distribute that to your devices, and that will be a standalone executable running the virtual application. Or you can publish them on this web server, and from this you can actually go to the web server, or you can create shortcuts that will run the applications from the web server. So there's different ways to launch these. If you right click one of these, it will actually show you what options you've got to run the application. Yeah? If you do not have the additional capabilities, if you do not have the streaming options, you will have run on my PC as an option, and you've got install on my PC as an option. So run on my PC will actually just download the application. It will download it in an efficient way, a bit similar to watching a YouTube video. If you watch a YouTube video, it downloads the first part of the application. It will start playing the video while it's downloading the remaining components. That's the same what we use within Desktop Container. So the first time that you start this application from the server, we will monitor what's actually happening when you start the application. Yeah? And by doing that, we are optimizing what components are actually needed to do the initial launch of the application. So we know that, so we download that first. The application gets started, and while it's started, we download the remaining components that might be needed later on. If you do the run on my PC, it basically just runs the application locally on a Windows workstation. If you do install on my PC, it does exactly the same, but it will make it available as a offline application as well. So you can then run that if you're in the train, if you haven't got internet connection at some point. That's maybe useful for NetCB at the moment because their internet connection was down at the office. So in that case, if you've got install on my PC, the application will just remain to be running on your device. The interesting thing are the top two. Yeah, run in the cloud and run in the cloud windowed. If you will run in the cloud, that's an option that will work without any plugins whatsoever. It's just using an HTML5 browser. If I do run in the cloud, you can see I'm now using Edge on my PC. If I do run in the cloud on Chrome, I haven't run Chrome yet, so it takes a little bit longer probably. I've just added Chrome to my server. So what it's actually open a new tab within Edge. And within the new tab, it's actually now starting my Chrome session. And I should have taken a different app because I've just added this to my backend server. So it's first time I launch it's always a bit slow. But you can see now it's actually starting Chrome. I've got Chrome showing up within a tab in my Edge browser. So you can see I've got Chrome. I've got this here. I've got Chrome running. I've got the about Google Chrome, which is running as a window within my Edge browser. Yeah, like this, I can just run any application. I could do GroupWise, for example, as a HTML5 browser. Yeah. The only difficulty with this is that things like cut and paste are a bit more difficult. Yeah, because the application is running in the data center, things like cut and paste are a little bit more difficult. Here, in the bottom, you've got this screen you've got the line below. Here you can, for example, switch between different tasks. You can browse the file system that you got on the server. You can print. So if you print actually something now, it will create a PDF that you can then download from this print jobs. And if you want to do clipboard, you can actually cut and paste text here. So if I select some text in my screen, if I say copy, it will actually show here on the top, and I can then go to this and I can copy it off from my machine. Yeah. To get a better experience, the other option is to run in the cloud window. So if I go back to my main screen, let me just take the Putty client, for example. It's a nice application to run. So what I can do is run in the cloud window. This will launch it as a separate pop-up. Yeah, it will mention that it needs to open up in a separate. For this, it needs to have a browser plugin installed, or a plugin on the workstation. So it needs the Turbo client. This will launch the application as an RDP session. Basically, it's an RDP session going to the application. Yep, showing up. And this becomes really an independent application on your workstation. It behaves like an independent application. You can actually go to your own local PC. You can, if you print, you can actually print to the devices that you got on your machine. But the application itself is running in the cloud. Yeah, it's running in the data center behind your desktop container server. The cool thing about this is that we've got a plugin for Windows, but we've also got a plugin for Mac. So if you've got an Apple device, this runs your Windows applications, but it behaves like if you've got a normal application on your Mac. So it's not within the browser like I just had with the Chrome, but it's just running just like it's an independent application. It shows up as if it's running on your own machine, but it's actually running in the data center. Yeah. With this, obviously, it makes it quite useful to do facilitate working from home, to provide those type of capabilities. Yeah, and obviously now with the whole pandemic going on, we've seen a lot of questions about that, and that actually increased the speed that we've got this released. So this should release somewhere next week. This should become available, and this will make it available for all of it. So how is this working in the back? So how is the administration behind this? So let me close the Chrome application and go to my console. So I can manage this. I can manage the application that I've got from my server administration page. On the server administration page, I can create the hub. This is all applications that I've got available on the system. Yeah. You can package your own applications. So in this case, GroupWise, for example, I've done the packaging myself. So I've used the Studio application to create my GroupWise package. But you can also download things from the repository that we've got. So if you go to the repository, you can import files that we got from the repository, and they will be added to the hub. Yeah. You can then go to you can create different workspaces. So you can actually have different groups of people with different workspaces defined. If I go to my workspace, I've got just one workspace here. I can manage that workspace. This is the environment that I see as a user. Yeah. Here you can see what applications I've been using. So you can see here, I've now today started Chrome. So that was the first time that I've started Chrome. You can see how many of the applications have been launched. Here on applications, I've got the applications listed. In this case, I've got GroupWise. And GroupWise, I can configure that. In the case of GroupWise, GroupWise is actually requiring .NET 3.5. And I'm running this on a application server that's running 2019. But on 2019, I haven't got .NET 3.5 available by default. So what I've done, I've actually added a component .NET. So this is a a virtual application that provides .NET. I include that with my GroupWise application. So without having .NET on my application server, I'm still able to run GroupWise, yeah, because I'm just adding that as a component within my GroupWise package. Yeah, and this allows me to run the GroupWise installation. Obviously, if you look at the general, one of the things you can do, you can specify the application that you launch. Is it allowed to launch from the cloud, or if I'm allowed to run that locally, or if I'm allowed to install? Yeah, if you've got an application that's only available in the cloud, maybe you have a certain business applications that you want to make available for people that work from home, you can just disable the last two, and they will just be able to run this from the data center. And obviously, you'll be able to specify what the default will be. So if they have the plugin installed, you can do the run in the cloud window, or you can just leave it with the run in the cloud HTML5. You can change the video encoding, and so what we can do is we can change some things with isolation. You can specify that you want to isolate files, and you can specify, are people allowed to see the local user folder? If you do the run in the cloud windowed, you can specify if from the windowed applications, if you're allowed to get to your local machine. Yeah. If not, you can just disable that. More cool is the networking capabilities. You can actually limit the application so that you're only allowed to go to certain specific websites. So even if you're launching it locally as a workstation, you can dynamically specify what websites people are allowed to go to with that downloaded browser, for example. Well, components I've just shown, that's the .NET component I've added specific for GroupWise. Storage, you can actually link to your T drive and you can make additional drives available. This will just, and obviously licensing, you can specify how many people are allowed to use this application. Yeah, with this, we can actually do concurrent licensing as well. So if I put in 10, that means that only 10 people are allowed to use this application at the same time. Or if you do named users, then obviously the named user component. Yeah, if I just go back to unlimited, that's the unlimited one. In the same way that I've done GroupWise with .NET, I can just go to my Internet Explorer. So Internet Explorer is a separate application. I've imported that from the hub. But on Internet Explorer, I've actually added the additional components. You can actually add Flash or Silverlight as an additional component. This guy has just enabled Flash on this one. So you can just enable or disable this easily, or I can remove this. In this case, I've just added Silverlight, but it disabled it. You can add additional components. You can add Java into this, for example, as well. That builds your application. If the user would start that, it's just combining the different components and running that within the cloud, yeah, or within the container. So that's the ability to, yeah, connect different systems together. Obviously, if you look at the users, we can link to it. Well, I need to go to this one. You can link to your to a Active Directory domain, so you can add your directory servers into that. We can support different authentication methods. If you want, we can integrate with the advanced authentication. So we support SAML. So if you want to do that, we can do two-factor authentication. We actually will ship a limited version of the Micro Focus Advanced Authentication product. The limitation is that it will only provide certain methods that you can use. If you want to have more methods, you would need to have the full product. But it's a fully functional version that will give you two-factor authentication into this portal. Yeah. So if you want to use this to have people work from home, the two-factor authentication is included with the product and will just allow you to send an SMS message, for example, to a mobile phone, so that people have a two-factor authentication for that. Obviously, there's some reporting capability here. If you want advanced reporting, we also are updating the domain that we have for Dashlets container, so you can use the ZENworks reporting server to build your own reports. And with that, I'm pretty much down to the end of it. I don't see any additional questions yet on the questions panel. Cobus, Justin, have you seen any additional questions coming in?
I have not seen any additional questions coming in here. Justin?
Not from my side, no.
Cool. Let me have one more. So I've shown you this slide a while ago. So all of the customers that now have the standard edition of the Desktop Containers 12, they will all get the Desktop Containers 20 version. Yeah, so there's no additional charge for that because of we're adding this library. So if you got the ZENworks suite, yeah, you would have Desktop Containers as well. Or if you've got the standalone component, you've got this as well. Yeah. And with that, you're able to create these virtual applications that you can just, well, you can put them on a USB stick, take it with you, or it's just an easy way to distribute that within your own environment. Yeah. And with that, you're able to, yeah, for example, do Internet Explorer 7, or I actually had a manufacturing customer that were using some stuff on XP that they couldn't get working on Windows 10. We virtualized that and were able to get that running properly. So, and with that, I'm getting to the end of my slides. I would like to say thank you.
Just a question that I would like to ask on behalf of some of the customers, because it may be in the back of their minds. Maybe Jenny or Fabian or Ron or anyone, if you could potentially answer this. There is a difference, to my knowledge, between ZENworks Suite and the ZENworks Configuration Manager that many customers get as part of the Open Workgroup Suite bundle that a lot of them are running it through. Could you possibly, or someone, just shed some light onto the difference between the two?
Let me go back to my overview slide with all the products. Because it's actually, especially if you look at now, so the customers that have Open Workgroup Suite, Open Workgroup Suite includes OES, GroupWise, Vibe, and ZENworks, but it includes two ZENworks components. Yeah, it includes configuration management and it includes endpoint security management. Yeah, and that means that all of the Open Workgroup Suite customers, quite a lot of them are now using configuration management, but quite often they haven't got endpoint security management enabled because they're just not looking at it. But it's something that they have within their NOWS bundle. From, well, probably April or so, we're not completely sure yet on the release. We're going to add the anti-malware component into endpoint security management. That means that all of the customers that have NOWS, they will actually get anti-malware as part of ZENworks as well, as part of the NOWS bundle. So that's an important thing to know. If you look at ZENworks Suite, so ZENworks Suite is actually a combination of some more ZENworks products. So that would include the asset management component. It includes the incident management version of Service Desk. So we got two flavors of Service Desk. The advanced version has some more ITIL versions available. It includes the endpoint security management, it includes full disk encryption, and it will make patch management a little bit cheaper. So if you've got the ZENworks Suite, that's the components that you have. And you actually have desktop containers within that. So ZENworks Suite is having desktop container, Service Desk, asset management, configuration management, endpoint security, full disk encryption, and it will make patch management a little bit cheaper. So that's the differences. ZENworks reporting is separate from that. If you got so customers that have ZENworks configuration management also have reporting server included. Or if we've got some customers that only use patch management, also for that they can use ZENworks reporting. So that's separate. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I think especially for NOWS customers, I'm quite happy that we're going to add the anti-malware into this. So it will make it more easy to have a single package to deliver the anti-malware components as well.
Thank you very much, Ron. And I hope that we've enlightened you on what is available currently within ZENworks, as well as what is on its way. The recording of this webinar will be posted on our website sometime during tomorrow, and you're welcome to access it from there if you need to replay to anyone within your own organization. If you need to contact any one of us, so we will also be in email communication to anyone who attended this session, as well as hopefully sending you a link to this presentation as well. Thank you very much, and have a good afternoon.